My parents, like many migrants before them, came to New Zealand to work and to help support their families back in Samoa. They actually married in Wellington, and my journey of my parents is quite an interesting one, especially my dad. He was the youngest of his family, and he actually started off as a fireman, but he was actually the first fireman in Wellington at the time. And then from there we moved to Auckland. He worked as a fireman at the Auckland International Airport. From there he actually became an immigration officer. I know there's a lot of, in the 80s when there was a 70s in terms of the dawn raids. So I remember he used to say that he was part of his job. I think at that time there were maybe 1 or 2 Samoans, and he said was checking people, and he said that he used to go around to do visas and that at that time. And my mum, she obviously raised, she was stay at home, and then from there he sort of combined his skills, and when I was in 6th form he opened up his own travel agent in Malta, Samoa, and he combined that with his immigration. And he was the first, I'm pretty sure he was the first one to do it at the time, and dealt with a lot of people, a lot of Samoans, but also that combined with his travel agent, which my mum helped out with. From there he actually moved to the States, and he carried that on, and sort of back then got people to invest in what was called the whalute oil in America, still in the 80s. So yeah, he was really hell-bent on, you know, setting the bar and trying to be an entrepreneur. And then obviously they always were really big on education, and it was quite daunting at times because my dad was sort of like be a trailblazer, doing things new. Being the eldest, I felt that I had to make sure that I did really well in education, because my dad had set the footprint for myself, my brothers and my sisters.
You know, both my parents came to New Zealand, you know, for the same reasons, for a better life, better opportunities, so they could, you know, help their families back home. They both came to Auckland in the 60s, and they worked, and then they went down to Wellington and started the family there. So my dad, he worked in many different jobs, like working on the boat, going down south, the South Island, little odd jobs, but then he found a permanent job working for the Ford company, so he's a senior foreman. My mum had worked in administration at the Beehive in Wellington, so when the Ford company had closed down, they had offered my dad a managerial position, but up in Auckland. And so that meant, you know, more money, and they were going to pay for all the school fees, and there are 6 of us. So the deal they offered my dad was, you know, it was quite a attractive package. But when they outweighed the balance, you know, where Mum was happy, we were really happy, we were settled in school, he turned it down. Our happiness was more important to him than money. You know, the struggle that my parents had to get the plot of land in the suburb that we were staying in, Wellington, it's called Bolton, and we were the only Polynesian family there. So the struggles that Mum and Dad got just to get that piece of land in that suburb, where we had a lot of people that would, you know, throw things at our property because they weren't happy that a Polynesian family had moved into that suburb. You know, there's a lot of love and a lot of history that went into building that house, where all the kids, all of us, were all involved in helping build, you know, the foundation for our family home. My mum really enjoyed working at the Beehive as well. You know, it was quite hard because when Dad was working out in the hut, it was like nearly an hour to travel. We would have to get up like about 5:30 in the morning, go to my mum's work. We'd have breakfast there, would sleep on the boxes of printing paper so that my dad could make it to his job in time. So I remember those kind of things. But you know, we never complained because Mum and Dad always try to make it fun for us. You know, she goes, "Oh look, you know, we can make our breakfast here, or we could build, you know, your bed or build a hut out of the boxes, you know, till it's time to go to school." So we were quite lucky because school was just only up the road from the beehive. But, when it got a bit tough, with mum and dad, working full time, my mum had made the decision to bring her mum over from Samoa. And that was a, big difference. We still had to get up early, 5:30 in the morning, but my granny was there to get up early with us and make up breakfast so that we didn't have to have it at mum's office. And then we'd always have someone at home. They gave up their sports, once we were old enough. They just encouraged us to just play whatever, and they'd support us, taking us different directions. With only one car, we had a Valiant, so we had all 6 of us squashed in this green bomb.
Both my parents ingrained that, and they always also shared that growing up in Samoa, life was hard, education was hard, and also the other thing that sort of was my older cousins, seeing them succeed sort of, and their encouragement, they sort of set the benchmark for myself. But there's always that challenge to strive to do well in education here.
From the upbringing from my parents, and I'm sure the same with Leo's parents, what they've instilled, their family values, the anganu'u, the importance of your language and culture, that we have been able to pass that on to our children. So, for the future, for our kids, with Frances, our eldest daughter, she's 17, Anastasia, who's 14, and Marcelino, our son, he's 11. There's only so much that we can do as parents to roadmap, the destination for them to whichever path they choose. There's only so much we can do. Our goal is to make sure that 1, they're happy, 2, that they have a strong sense of their anganu'u. It's very, for us, the culture is very important. They cannot lose that. So like Lefao has mentioned before, you stop learning about your culture, you stop growing. And we've always instilled that in our children. So talking to them in Samoan, talking about the culture and why we do the things we do, why parents get angry, why you have to be quick with with your fe'aus, in the kitchen, and just little things like that they need to understand. But we want them to be confident in whatever decision they make. We want them to just be prepared and just give everything, be strong-headed, strong-minded, when they make decisions. Don't always second-guess.
I think it's really important for our children, and especially in Auckland, because it's such a diverse community. For my kids and for any Samoan, is being able to hold your head up high, and they always look for that point of difference, and that is who you are and what you are. So that's our belief, is instilling that in our kids, so they're able to mix and move between whatever world, whether it be the Bālangi world or the Samoan world. It is the backbone of our children, and also God. We're Catholics, so that's a chance where they get to practice a lot of the anganu'u is through Sunday school, and also when we go to church, Samoan Mass. So they participate in that, and hearing the language, singing songs, and also the launga of Whaiwhiao Pākele. That's so we just try and provide that environment for them. They're always learning the language, and like ourselves.
Mum, she didn't really explain the reason why you have to be quick. It just had to be quick. You had to do it fast and make sure everything was out there and done quietly. And when our kids would say, "Why? What is the rush?" and then would say, "It all reflects back on your parents and how you've been raised, So you just get everything out there." And goes, "Don't sulk, don't stomp your feet." They look at everything, all those little things. It all counts, it all matters. And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's just the way we were brought up." Mum would, just, teach us, when people come in, the first thing, that's what I love about the Samoan culture, is the hospitality that, we'll be like, "Okay, you're inviting these people to have food, but we don't have much, but you've invited them." And she goes, "You've got to, it's our culture to welcome people and, praise them and just give whatever you have. If you've got only one box of crackers, cabin bread in the cupboard, you give it to them, okay? Because it just comes from the heart. That's how we are raised." So like, oh, okay, it was, quite hard at first to understand these things. And we also didn't quite understand because Mum and Dad weren't very fluent in English. So they always spoke to us in Samoan, but they always made sure that we had to speak English because to help us with our schooling. So when we had problems with our homework, we would go to our next door neighbours because we were the only Polynesian family in our suburb, and they would always help us out, and they were quite academic, so we were actually quite blessed in that case, yeah. And then we'd go to school and mix up the Samoan English words together, we'd get confused, but yeah, no, our neighbours helped us quite a bit. Yeah, and you know, being isolated from other Polynesian, like majority of the Polynesians lived in Porirua. When we'd go to school, there was hardly any Polynesian, especially in primary school. But when I went to St Mary's College, there was actually a bit more. So it was a bit of a shock, you know, just listening to them. You know, they were going to Samoan churches, whereas we were just going to a Balangi one, and just listening to all the stuff they were doing, I thought, this is really cool. We're really missing out. And this is what we've been able to give back to our kids, putting them in the Sunday school, Samoan Sunday school, going to Sunday Samoan masses, yeah, and they've really enjoyed it. We struggled in the community because we could see that people couldn't understand why we dressed the way we did, you know, wearing your pulukasi or wearing a ilavalava that, you know, got to a stage where we were too ashamed to come out to check the mail in our ilavalava. Whereas, you know, when you come home, you take your school clothes off, you put your ilavalava on, those are your work clothes, and yeah, so sometimes we would just sort of look around to see that no one was out, and then we'd run out. And then our granny would always chase us with the salu, and she'd say, why are you acting like that? She goes, this is what we wear, this is your culture, you know. So just, yeah, a lot of things like that. It was quite hard when we go out in the community, just getting the looks, the stares. You know, my dad had like 2 dogs, and you know, one of the neighbours up the road had poisoned one of our dogs, and because they tried to kick us out of the suburb, but no, we stayed strong, Mum and Dad, yeah. But it wasn't until when I went to St Mary's College, and then I was amongst some other PI and Māori kids, that I felt, okay, you know, I'm really, really understanding my identity now. Just listening to their stories, then hang around with their friends when I wag school and meet up with their other PI friends, and just, you know, being just being shown, you know, there's a whole group of us out there. And, you know, I just really realised how much I'd missed out.
Well, my parents and my siblings, we grew up in a Samoan church, Catholic church, and we were really heavily involved with the church. My parents were part of the Mangere East Māngere Society Ecclesia. We went to Sunday school, and a lot of our life revolved around church, and so we were always exposed to the language, and my dad used to do a lot of talking. He was an orator, so yeah, it was quite. Well, a lot of times growing up, we didn't understand why we'd get these bylaws of Puimasima, or you know, that was pretty much my life, and so a lot of my friends were Samoans, and we went to attended Te La Salle, which back in the 80s there were a lot of Samoans, but there was still a lot of Europeans as well. So yeah, and then we obviously went to Samoa quite a bit. So yeah, in terms of my identity, I always knew I was Samoan, and it was just reflected in our church and everything around us.
I suppose when we talk to our kids, we want them to understand about the sacrifices that have been made, not just from us, but from generations beforehand. So, you know, they love to hear the stories about their grandparents' sacrifices they had to, you know, to come up with. For example, like my dad, when we didn't have the car, and he would have to catch the bus, and he would get off like 3 or 4 stages before the bus stop closest to our house to save just those little few coins, so that could go towards, you know, our food or school fees. I mean, there were 6 of us going to Catholic schools, so costings of uniforms, you know, shoes, sports. It's just those little things, you know, and the sacrifices that we make as well. We give up, you know, just so that our kids, we can provide the best for our kids. We want them to understand and to learn about sacrifices and also about, paying it forward, giving it back, because that's our culture. You help everyone else, not just yourself, and you will go far, because we teach our kids the three main things: church, education, sport. But the first two, it's always about giving back, and that's where you get your blessings from.
If we think back to our parents, the first migrants, like Sami shared, a lot of the things we did, we didn't really know why, in terms of the Ianaulio and whaalawe. So I think the big thing now is for the New Zealand born, that second generation, is we're actually able to explain to our kids, this is why you do this, this is like, and sitting down and spending that time with them. Major blessing is understanding the Ianaulio a lot clearer and being able to pass it on, but also with the rationale behind the unique culture.
That's right. I think the help of these bilingual courses have really helped me in order to help pass that information on to my kids as well. So, growing up before, how I'd said my mum and dad, they couldn't really explain it in English why they did certain things at whaalawe, but doing the PEC bilingual courses, the Ianaulio 101 bilingual courses, I really helped me to understand. And then I knew when I go to a whaalawe, I'd feel a lot of, I feel so proud, and my heart would be overjoyed, because I'll be like, I understand what they're saying, I know what they're doing now. And then, but to be able to pass that on, that's a blessing.